Welcome, Mira. So good to see you.
Thank you.
You know, you have a birthday coming up, and I'm gonna hedge and say that I think this might be your best birthday ever. 'Cause you're on Broadway.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty incredible to celebrate it with the audience.
I'm assuming many childhood birthdays, maybe you thought, someday maybe I can be on Broadway.
Well, from the time that I was really small, I mean, you know, my dad was a Broadway actor. He
Yes.
was discovered pretty much through that championship season, for which he got a Tony nomination. And as a kid, I used to write plays and perform them for the neighborhood in my backyard. And there was one in particular when I was six called The Dutch Doll, with the actress Hope Davis, who lived right across the street from me. And I was the girl and she was the doll, and the doll was sick, and there was a doll doctor, and it was very dramatic, and the whole block came to watch it.
Oh my God, can we bring that play back? Can you imagine if Instagram existed then, the video we would have had of you two doing this play?
Gosh, I feel like the parents would have done some kind of Super 8 movie of it, but I don't know that that exists.
Trust me, I know your dad was on Broadway, because when I think of the name Paul Sorvino, I think of the Baker's Wife cast album cover, and I think of his name in that font, right? Because he was on that album with Patti LuPone, which is iconic, which wasn't on Broadway, but he did great plays on Broadway, Tony nomination. You were actually a little girl when he was on Broadway. Do you have any memories of him on Broadway? You were young.
We also went to see him in I think it was Wheelbarrow Closers, and Marlon Brando sat right here. And some of those I think Marlon Brando sat right here might have been off Broadway, but you know, we would go to Sardi's, we would go to Columbus, like all these places that were like the haunts of the New York theater and film crowd. And you know, he's got his caricature in Sardi's, and we had his wake there. So, you know, he passed away like, oh gosh, now I'm going to start to cry. But anyway, it just felt really fitting, you know, with the dark red booths, and that was his favorite color. And he always felt like a king when he was there. You know, he was holding court. So anyway, I'm starting to cry. So.
It's okay. He's an incredible man, an incredible career.
Yeah.
And I think of him also when you won your Oscar, that, you know, seeing him crying in the audience when you won, it's just like such a beautiful moment. Anyway, it's just.
But you know how I thanked him in the speech? I said, you know, when you honor me, you honor my father, Paul Sorvino, who taught me everything I know about acting. That all started when I was a child. It started when I was 8, and it was in my first school play called The Mystery of the Missing Caps and Punks, or capitalizations and punctuations. And I was Miss Big Brain, gray-wigged teacher with giant glasses, polyester dress, and students, and I created my first voice for a character. And that wasn't really the serious acting lesson, but the next one, HMS Pinafore, I was Josephine, and I had this moment where I had to go kiss this boy on the stage. And I only had a crush on one boy, and that boy was not that boy. I mean, he was nice and everything. I just didn't, you know, I wasn't like in love with him. And my father was like, all right, Mira, just imagine who is the most handsome, attractive, charming movie star. And this was the 70s, and I was like, Elvis. And he wasn't dead yet. And so he was like, all right, well, just imagine Elvis Presley is standing there on that stage, and you have the opportunity to give him a kiss on the cheek. How does that make you feel? I mean, I was elated, and I ran out there. I would give the very nice boy, a kiss on the cheek, and I was full of like euphoria. And then I caught that bug of having that excitement in front of the audience, having that roller coaster ride of the play being live. And, you know, and then I just did every school play until I, you know, graduated college. Like, you know, I was in all the plays, and, you know, a bunch of musicals. I was Aldonza Dulcinea at Harvard. You know, I just, I played, you know, I did the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie in high school. I was her. I was in She Stoops to Conquer. I was a witch in Macbeth. Like, you know, I played against Sam. You know, so it's just romantic comedy. Like, you know, so I did a ton of, you know, and that's all amateur.
Full spectrum,
right?
too.
But it was a lot, you know. And then I did the Nutcracker Suite as a 12-year-old. I was a boy in the party scene because I was too tall to be any other character for my age range. But I had so much fun, and that was a huge auditorium, like 4,000 people, and you know, we had all these soloists from the Royal Ballet and whatever, and I fell in love with that feeling of performing for those people, and you know, taunting the girls with my little horn and doing all the dances. And then I was a Paula Chanel coming out from Mother Ginger Skirt, and so, you know, growing up, I was always in the theater, and some of my first jobs were in the theater. Like I was in a stage reading of a play called Sleeping Out. And then after I, started back in after college and was taking acting classes and auditioning, I got a play called Best of Schools, which we did at the Ubu Rep. And I did Joyce Carol Oates' play Greensleeves, which was sort of about a Marylandish character out at the John Drew Theater in the Hamptons. I did Naked by Pirandello in like 2002, I want to say, 2003.
Yeah.
And just somehow I never had the opportunity to do Broadway. I had one offer for an amazing role that I had to do a vocal audition for and passed, and it was originally for a 6-month run, and then it got expanded to a 1.5 years, and I just couldn't do it for my schedule, and I've always regretted that. I've always regretted not being able to do that show, and that was Cabaret. And so now here I am. This is like such a dream come true, like, because I love live performance, and I cannot tell you how much I love dancing. Like, my whole life, I've been a student of dance. I was a ballet girl until I was 14, 15, and then in my adult life, I've done a lot of social dancing. And then after I got kicked off Dancing with the Stars, I was so crestfallen because I loved it so much. And I think a lot of people felt like maybe I went home a little early, but that's just, that's me. But I would have dreams like, oh, I have to get to rehearsal. And then it was like, no, you're not on the show anymore. And of course the show only lasts a few more weeks, but it felt like it had become my life. And then I was like so depressed about it. And then I was like, wait a second, why don't I just go take jazz dancing classes and become a competent dancer so I could eventually do Broadway? And that was 2 years ago.
Wow.
And I've been going to jazz classes for 2 years. I have all these teachers in LA that are so wonderful and have really helped me get to the point where I could handle the dancing. And another thing that I did recently in New York, which I felt was part of my path to this role, was I wrote a one-woman show called My Life in 20 Songs, and I did it at the Hotel Carlyle for 2 weeks. And I sang 20 songs that were directly related to my life, songs I had sung in shows, songs my parents had taught me or my dad sung around me. I sang O Sole Mio in Neapolitan because supposedly it was written about my great aunt Louisa when she was a little girl before she emigrated to America. It's a family legend. My dad swears it's true. I don't know. But all these things were part of like the building blocks of my life. And that, I think, also was part of my path to being able to do this show, to sing confidently 20 songs in a row night after night, and develop that communication through song. I've always sung, did cabarets in Don't Tell Mamas, I did it in college, I did it in Beijing, China at Maxime's. But people mostly know me for film, so yeah.
You haven't been specifically preparing for Roxie all this time.
No, just.
So you weren't like. I was picturing you in the kitchen doing the Roxie monologue over the last 2 years and
No.
running it on repeat. But did you have this role in mind? It's a great role.
I did, and I told my agents, I was like, hey, I'd really like to, do Broadway at some point. What about Chicago? Well, I don't know. And I was like, well, a lot of my friends have done it. I think I could probably do it. Could I have a meeting on it? So this spring, they set up a meeting with the wonderful casting director Duncan Crabtree, and we had a fantastic Love Fest meeting. And then he was like, all right, well, the way it works is this: we're going to do a work session with our dance captain in California. We have the New York dance captain, David Bushman, but they have an associate, Greg Butler, in LA. Yeah. And then we'll do a little work session with Eric Vitro to see if it's good for both of us. And I was like, yeah, these are auditions, but thank you for framing them this way. It's fine. And I didn't have to do an acting audition, but they had to. This is a very demanding role. Yeah. So I worked with Greg. I passed that part of it. I was so thrilled, and then I went on and came in and sang the songs with Eric, and he sent it in, and then I came to New York, and our lovely producer Barry asked to meet me, and I went in and had a meeting with them, and then they made me the offer. And that night they sent me and my daughter and my friend tickets to see the show, and I had kept it on the quiet from my daughter because she's a dancer and a performer, and I just didn't even want to share it until I knew it was real, because I didn't want to, you know what I mean? Sometimes you feel like you jinx things. And I was like, I think we're going to go to a Broadway show. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, yeah, I think so. And then the offer came in officially. And she's like, what Broadway show? And why? And I was like, we're going to go see Chicago because I'm going to do Chicago. And she was like, what? but
You have 4 kids. How are they all reacting to this moment
they're
in your
really
life?
proud of me, you know, because like they know that this is like a dream of mine. And here I am crying again. It's so stupid. But when I was an adult, my dad did The Most Happy Fella at Lincoln Center with the New York City Opera.
Yeah.
And his whole life he dreamed of being a real opera singer. And he had done Deflator Mouse with Seattle Opera Company. He had done concerts all over the place. He studied opera his whole life and really almost preferred singing to acting. And you'd seen him in The Baker's Wife or heard him in The Baker's Wife and Carmelina and all these other shows. But at 65 years old, he achieved his dream of singing at Lincoln Center with the New York City Opera in an operetta, but it's still operatic. Yeah. And we were so blown away. We're like, oh, there's no expiration date on dreams. Right. Look at Dad, like nothing's stopping him. And I feel like for me, this is, I'm not as old as he was, but like, you know, this is something, an opportunity to come now for me to be on this vaunted stage, you know, with this beloved show, with all these brilliant professional actors, dancers, choreographers, directors, you know, singers, musicians. Like, it's such a powerhouse show, and I just feel blessed. I am so pinching myself, and every day I've had on rehearsal on this show has been some of the most fun I've ever had working on anything. I mean, maybe Romy and Michele was as fun in a different way, but like there is something so thrilling for me to hone myself as a performer through these incredible dances and song numbers and the monologues and creating my Roxie, because my Roxie is different from other people's Roxies. I think everybody's Roxie is different.
That's what I love about this show, and all the actresses I've been able to see do it. It's so fun to see how people sort of click in with this woman. And what is it in? She loves the spotlight. Do you like the spotlight as much as Roxie?
No, I wouldn't say that.
I feel like I've never really gotten that vibe. Although I know you like to perform, but
but the love of performing is the same, and her dream coming true after it being deferred for a long time is the same. Yeah. And for me, Roxie is an eternal kid. So she's like emotionally frozen at 8 years old, and that comes with all the good and all the bad. You know what I mean? She doesn't have a lot of impulse control. She, you know, when she was good, she was very, very good, and when she was bad, she was awful, like the little girl with the curl on her forehead, that nursery rhyme. And that's how I see her. So I see her with a lot of innocence, even though she kills a man and, you know, uses her sexuality as a way to move ahead and steals ideas from other people. But ultimately, I think she has this very buoyant spirit. And for me, I love her, and I don't play her cynically. For me, she's like childlike and full of wonder at being able to actually be something. Because I think all her life, she's been a little bit used and seen as just one thing. And even Amos, who loves her, you know, I feel like, I got myself a pretty girl with a good body, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily like, she's never seen for her, and this is her final chance to be seen as her, you know, like having her, you know, I'm important, I am of value, I'm a star, you know, but like, it's like a joy rather than, for me, a huge ego thing, even though obviously she focuses on the wrong things as the story goes along. And poor Amos, you know, poor Amos. We all love Amos, but I don't judge her, and I think that's key. And I don't play her cynically, and I don't play her hardened.
It must be fun at this point in your career and with the world like it is to be like something so innocent and not, you know, with no cynicism, like you said. It must be fun to do that every day.
Yeah, and you know, and people be, well, that's because she doesn't care about them. They go, okay, please don't tell me what she cares about, doesn't care about. You know, like I know what the lines say, and I know how I'm thinking about how she's doing it. You know, I know what's important to her. Even like with the, you know, she's always praying. And, you know, it was suggested to me, oh, no, she's just doing that for effect. But she instantly goes into it when she's in trouble. And I don't think it's for the audience. So I think she was brought up a Catholic, and I'm a Catholic. So when I do it, I'm actually praying, you know, like I'm not, because I don't want to just make it like this cheapened thing. Like I want her to actually in that moment be like begging for help, you know, because she doesn't want to be hanged. And
Is there anything you're praying about in terms of like specific things about the show you're nervous about?
No. I'm as her, but you know, I'm still connecting.
Are you feeling very confident? How are you feeling? Like
I feel like I'm in a good place for this point in the pre-production. I mean, the only thing that I find super weird about this is that there's no dress rehearsals or previews. There's only one put-in rehearsal, which for me is a dress rehearsal, and it's the only time I get to work with the full company. I got to dance for the first time and sing with Bianca the other day, and she was lovely and so supportive, and so what a dear, and so talented. But it's weird because I'm doing the whole show day in, day out with two people, and they're playing all the parts, and I'm imagining all the other dancers, and you know, this being such it's a shallow stage with a lot of dancing choreography with the full company, and I have to weave in and out of it, and that's giving me a little pause, and also just not kind of doing it a few times before the audience with like a preview audience or as dress rehearsals before the audience watches me. But it is what it is, because that's the way, a long-running show, people just come in, and this is the way they come in. You don't have the luxury of opening the show and having a 6-week rehearsal period and then your previews where there's no pressure.
I love when performers like you get to join this company, because it's an incredible company of real Broadway talent, and they're going to be there to support you, and it's just, you get to sort of like immediately drop into this incredible Broadway family. Yeah. And actually, I just want to show you, speaking of Broadway performers, I don't know if you know, but they just announced these two actresses are going to be doing Romy and Michele in the musicals. Laura Bell Bundy's Romy and Cara Lindsay. Do you have any advice for women about to play these incredible roles?
Have fun with it and really build it off of a true friendship. I mean, Lisa and I bonded right away, and Lisa makes me funnier, and somehow I just get tickled pink by her, and it was so easy to play Romy to her Michele because I just loved her. And so that real bond is the important part of that. And also for Romy, she has to have a real vulnerability underneath her bravado. She swaggers around like she's Captain Kirk walking into the deck of the Enterprise, but actually underneath it, she's very, very vulnerable to what people think of her, vulnerable to not being enough, and so a lot of her talk is kind of overcompensation sometimes, although she has a joy to it. She likes being that person, but they have to remember that vulnerability and that connection with each other.
You announced that you're going to be doing a sequel.
Yes.
Romy and Michele. The whole world is very excited about this. Thinking about that and thinking about you fulfilling this Broadway dream, it feels like you're just getting to do these incredible things at this point. Is this what sort of drives you now and what you want to do and spend time on?
I think things that make me happy, things that feel great to do, and as I said, my kids are like, when I went in for the dance work session, my daughter was like, "You got this, Mama," and it was so cute, and they were all rooting for me, and so I just I hope everybody in the audience feels that same joy, that same excitement, because basically, Roxie getting to have an act is sort of like me getting to be on Broadway. I mean, I didn't kill anybody for it, but it's maybe long overdue for me, because it's sort of how I started, and then my career just sort of diverted to film, and then that's where it went, and then I was in California, and then my career was suppressed by a certain horrible person we shall not name, and I only came back to studio films. It was a 20-year gap. Everything was suppressed. So, but during that time, I had my 4 incredible children, and I became a UN Goodwill Ambassador against human trafficking, and I've done work on human trafficking for 21 years now. And so that's been a huge part of my life. So my life has all had some divine plan, but now I'm getting to return to really what I love in the art, and that is making me so happy.
You've done incredible work, and everyone loves you for it, and I'm just so thrilled. You are exactly where you need to be, and I'm sure your dad is smiling down on this. Thank you. So nice to meet you.
You too.